in the illogical and insane attack on the American Health Care Act, Part 2. News Nugget. Remember Nancy Pelosi making this famous statement prior to them passing the Unaffordable Care Act.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Now she says Republicans need to pull their health care bill and start over.
It's very, very troubling. It's very, very cruel. It must be stopped.
And she goes on to say that House Republicans must know by now that their health bill is cruel.
They should just pull the plug on this bill. Pull the bill. That's our message to the Republicans. This isn't even a good start.
What hypocrisy, I guess, is the only way you can describe it. They shoved their bill down the throats of the American people, which is a disaster. Now she doesn't even want the Republicans to move forward with their proposal, which is going to make it less dependent upon government and more dependent upon the free market. That's the bottom line. But now she's got the nerve to talk about how cruel and troubling the Republicans' plan is. I have a couple of hypothetical questions for Nancy. Is it cruel and troubling that some families have $5,000 and $6,000 deductibles, so effectively they don't have any insurance? Is it troubling to you, Nancy, at all that the CBO predicted that you were going to cover 24 million people in 2016, but the so-called Unaffordable Care Act actually only covered half that amount? That's troubling. And what's even more troubling is the deception on the part of the Democrats and the liberals to be against the American Health Care Act before it is even passed, because ultimately they want to keep the Unaffordable Care Act, starting with an assumption made by one of their architects, Jonathan Groper.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever.
Based upon the stupidity of the American voter. We are not stupid. And most of you all are not stupid. But they want you to be, they are assuming that you are stupid enough to want to keep the Unaffordable Care Act, because you are too stupid to realize it's not good for you or your family. Now that's troubling to me. Very troubling. Now when the CBO came out with its erroneous report, listen to what Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price had to say about it.
The CBO looked at a portion of our plan, but not the entire plan. In fact, the entire plan includes the regulatory apparatus that we've got the ability to use at Health and Human Services that the previous administration used significantly, but we want to use it to make certain that patients are helped and that costs are decreased. They also ignored completely the other legislative activities that we'll be putting into place that will make certain that we have an insurance market that actually works.
So what the CBO did, and the Democrats and the liberals picked up on, they picked out the soundbite that they want. Between me leaving the hotel yesterday, folks, and landing in Atlanta, leaving the hotel, getting on an airplane, landing in Atlanta, getting home, I had 4 questions pertaining to the soundbite that the CBO, the liberals and the Democrats were putting out there. What about these 14 million people that are going to lose health insurance? And I had to tell 4 individuals, some of whom I didn't even know, it's a lie. It's a lie. Allow me to explain the lie. Again. First, They don't really have 14 million people on health insurance. At best, they have 7 million that are taking advantage of Obamacare because the CBO has consistently been 50% wrong. And what they don't tell you on the nightly news is that of those 7 million, if that number is correct, most of them are on Medicaid. Because if you called up and you didn't make enough money to buy Obamacare on one of the exchanges, then you qualified for Medicaid. That's why they wanted the Medicaid expansion. Here's the other lie that the Democrats are pushing out there. That if the Republican plan goes through, it's going to take away Medicaid from some people who have it. No, it's not. It's simply going to allow the states to determine the rules for qualifying for Medicaid going forward. That's what it's going to do. But the liberal media has succeeded in throwing the soundbite that they like out there to substantiate their attack against the American Health Care Act. So first of all, the CBO report, the numbers and the projections are wrong because they have consistently been wrong. Here's the second reason that CBO report doesn't mean a thing. They always use, and I've never been able to understand why it was never changed, what you call static analysis, not dynamic analysis. Static analysis. Let me give you an example. You're living on a budget. You and your spouse are working, and you're living within your means. You hit the lottery, and you now have an extra $100 million. Statically, you wouldn't spend any of that $100 million. You would continue living off of the budget that you put together based upon your modest means. Dynamic spending would say you're going to spend some of that $100 million. But whenever the CBO does a report, it's always based upon people's behavior not changing. And that's a lie. We saw it in the health care legislation that they passed. They made all of these assumptions. For example, the biggest assumption that they made was that if you mandate it and people have to pay a penalty, that their behavior was nearly everybody was going to get on health insurance. That didn't happen. Some people resented being told by the government so bad, they just said, I'll just pay the penalty, rather than have a $5,000 deductible that I can't do anything with. Or, like a lot of people that I know, they simply said, I'm just going to go without insurance. I can't afford it. I can't afford the premiums. I can't afford the deductibles. I can't qualify for Obamacare. They're just going without, which means that their health is not being attended to. But Nancy Pelosi wants to say that what the Republicans are trying to do is cruel. No, Nancy. What the Democrats are trying to do and force everybody to stay on the Unaffordable Care Act, that's what's really cruel. That's what's really, really cruel. And it is also cruel that the Democrats will go to any length to scare people. Chuck Schumer, who was supposed to be the Senate Minority Leader, he says Republicans should scrap their health care bill, which stands no chance of advancing.
The bill's in trouble. It's in trouble in the House. It's even in more trouble in the Senate. And we Democrats are unified. Until you take repeal off the table, we can't support this because it does so much damage.
And he's wrong again. It's a process that they're working through. Sean Spicer, White House press secretary, says it's not a take it or leave it plan, and the administration welcomes input from lawmakers.
I think this is about bringing people together, and if we have great ideas that will achieve a better outcome for the American people, then we're going to listen to them and we're going to incorporate them.
But Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they're saying they don't have any better ideas. They just want to kill the Republican plan. And so, folks, as I'm flying back to Atlanta, and after experiencing replugging into the news stories of the day, it occurred to me that all of the Democrats' objections to the Republicans' plan and its 3 phases are insane and illogical. And what the Democrats and the liberal media are counting on from you is to be stupid. Memo to Democrats and liberal media. We are not stupid. You're listening to the Herman Cain Show.
He's been there. He's done that. And he wants to give you the insight and the advantage. Herman Cain, Solutions for a Better America.